Mr. Don Sinkfield. Please give him a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to say thank you. Every year, I thank you for putting this together, Darlene, because we need this. There's a lot of talk about the difference between white and black wealth and how, white people have, in general, 6 to 9 times more wealth, including real estate, business ownership, et cetera. And, when we look at that, we can always look at ourselves and say, oh, we spend our money wrong, we do the wrong things, et cetera. But fundamentally, what has happened is the history in a white family is generally different than the history in a black family. And so, when I've talked to clients who live in elite parts of Long Island, I want to say this, a lot of the people that come for counseling are highly successful people, right? So it's not people who are, fighting in bars somewhere, who just need, to get counseling in order to get through some kind of court case. A lot of people are coming to counseling because of what Darlene said. They want to feel a little better. They want to get things out. They want to deal with the stress that exists within them. And I've talked to so many people who are white and who are going through their own issues, but these people, when you talk to them, they talk about how their father had a business and their grandfather had a business, and this business was passed down. Somebody else worked for Shearson and Lehman. They have a background in finance, et cetera. And so we didn't have that. And so often, when we come to the point that we want to get into business, we are learning, there's a learning curve involved. And so what Stacey N.C. Grant was talking about, the belief in yourself, the fact that that God has already ordained it and you're using the authority that is already given to you when you take your goals, that's very real, and we need that, and we need this. We need this encouragement because it's very different. I'm going to talk about a little bit about my story, and then I'll weave it into stress management, okay? When I was a school counselor for the New York City Department of Ed, I thought that I would become a therapist after I retired. That was my idea. And eventually, what happened was that I started not to love the work that I did as a school counselor anymore. It was, I have 2 of my old students here from Family Academy, a school in Brooklyn that I led the guidance department. And let me tell you, the job was about counseling at that time. I really had a good relationship with my students, and I felt blessed to be able to guide students, help families, et cetera. As the New York City Department of Education became more data-oriented, they wanted charts and data to show who was at risk, who might not graduate, who was graduating, which is all good stuff, but it wasn't the job of a counselor. And so a lot of the counselors in the system ended up doing data. And so, instead of working with students, I was in my office putting together charts, trying to figure out how to demonstrate to the principal that we were having growth with attendance, et cetera. And so as I started to like my job less, I started to become motivated to my entrepreneurship goal more. And eventually ended up at a school in Harlem, and it was a beautiful experience, but I needed change. And, my mother and father were products of the 60s and 70s. My own mother graduated from high school in her 40s from Manpower School, which was a war on poverty program that allowed people to go back and get their education and then place them in jobs equivalent to their background and education that they would gain from the program. So my mother eventually ended up at Bankers Trust, AKA Deutsche Bank, and my father, the same thing. He kind of got his high school education later and then ended up doing security supervisor at a bank. And my father, he was a man from the deep South that knew that if you were a man, you were supposed to work. So he would tease me like as a kid, like, when are you gonna get a job? And then, you know, when I finally was of age to get a job, he said to me, I can get you a job at the bank being a security guard. And I said, Dad, you know, I think that I want to go to college. And he said, if you want to go to college, I'll pay for the first semester. And after that, you know, I expect you to pay for it. And so, you know, I went to college, and it was a journey. I didn't know what I wanted to do right away, but it was people that helped me along the way. It's always people that help. And so sometimes, you know, when, especially among black people, we say we're like crabs in a barrel, you know, we don't help each other. People help me. People help me. And I would say particularly black women. It was always a black woman who was there to help me when I became a teacher assistant, when I became a teacher, my first guidance counselor job, my second guidance counselor job. And that journey was something that built my confidence. But let me tell you, my dad was a person who would say to me, you have to be safe. You have to be secure. He didn't want me to get into a job that I was going to lose the job. And so when I became a teacher, he was like, okay, great. And when I became a guidance counselor, he remembered the 70s when there was a fiscal crisis, and the first people they fired in the 70s when New York City had a fiscal crisis was the guidance counselors. And so he was like afraid for me, like, oh, you got that guidance counselor position, you know, you don't know what's gonna happen with that. You know, eventually I wanted my own business, and this is the difference between us and the white people that I was referencing that have this history of business ownership in their family. When I became an entrepreneur, I really couldn't tell my dad what I was doing. It was almost like I was doing something wrong, you know, because my dad just wanted me to be safe and secure. And if he knew that I was taking money from my paycheck and trying to start a counseling business, it would have been like I was gambling or something like that. Okay, so, you know, I put my first $2,000 into Help to Adjust counseling. We had a small office on the second floor of a building in Valley Stream. The landlord had a guy that was doing a surveillance business there. The landlord actually had an office that he was renting as an apartment, but it was really an office. So you had people cooking food at night. Like the clients that would come see me would be smelling, you know, food that was being cooked over here. Gentleman over here had the surveillance business. Like him and his girlfriend would be playing reggae music. I mean, it was just a lot happening. But that was my first space. And when we did our 7th month at that space, we realized that the business was growing. And it wasn't accidental. There was a lot of work that went into putting the business first. So while I was a guidance counselor, I was sitting at work trying to get on the panel for different insurance companies. I'd be filling out paperwork. They would be telling me that the paperwork had to be turned in within 3 days. I would be faxing from the school's fax machine. And Eventually, we outgrew the first space. We went to our second space, and we're now at our third space. And we went from a place of having just a few families that we served every week to now we serve over 220 individuals and families a week. We're now incorporated, and we do a lot for the community. I mean, people are grateful that we are here, and I'm grateful for any encouragement that we get to start our own businesses and to do what's necessary to grow them, because it's not an easy journey. And you know, what was being said earlier about taking your own money and spending it and knowing that eventually your business will manifest something that will make it worth it, that's some very real stuff. So let me just say a word about stress management. Building capacity in your team is stress management. You know, when Tanya was speaking, she mentioned that if you have to talk with your team members throughout a project, then you might as well be doing it yourself, right? It's very important that your team, who more than likely are very capable people, that they learn the things that they have to learn to really help you. I was talking to a woman from the Long Island Chamber of Commerce, and she said to me, you need someone else to be you so that you can go and build your business. And my office management team are, well, I have 3, but 2 of them are here, and they are wonderful people who are so intelligent, and I know that they can do anything. They can do anything that I could do within the office management skill set. And I truly believe that in the last 3 months alone, the capacity that they have to do many things in the office is, I think, maybe tripled or quadrupled from just 3 months ago. And so the goal is to build capacity in your team so that they can do the things that make it so that you can continue to grow your business. The question of what do you need, what do I need to be okay right now? That's the question that I always say that you should ask yourself in the event that you want to find out what's necessary to get to the next place, what's necessary to avoid anger that can be destructive at times. What do I need to be okay right now? And if you ask yourself that, the answer can't be something that someone else can do. The answer has to be something that you can do. What do you need to be okay? I need more time in my schedule for myself, for that self-care that we talked about. Well, how do I get the time in my schedule? You have to sit down and look at how you spend your day and see what it is that you can shift around so that you can actually get individuals who are helping you to do a little bit more so that you can maybe have that time in your day. When I was an employee of the New York City Department of Ed, it was fairly easy for me to leave for lunch and take that 45 minutes for myself without a second thought. But you know, when you are a business person, the buck stops with you. And so if you have some time that something has to be, you have a deadline where something has to be done, it's so important that you figure out your own deadlines, because if you don't figure out how to do it within that deadline, it's your business that suffers. The buck really stops with you. So entrepreneurs, manage your time, build your team, and ask yourself what you need. Ask yourself what you need. That self-awareness about what you need will always get you to the point where you'll realize that you are human and that you need to be okay. You need to be okay to manifest for other people, and so that people can lean on you. Because if you're not okay, then everything falls apart. So this event is wonderful. I'm appreciative that I'm part of this. Darlene, you called me your boss. I mean, Darlene is such a leader. And let me tell you, when you have to lead, it just doesn't stop. And that self-care is so necessary. And so, you know, my cards are in the back. Nez is wearing a yellow shirt. Please come by. A lot of times I would go on a show, or I would appear somewhere, and I would believe that I'm going to get the people who are participating in the program that I'm involved in would be the people who would want my cards, and a lot of times it's the people who are actually running the show, or the producer, or someone who would say, I would like a card, because everyone needs self-care, and everyone needs the encouragement of Making of the Moguls, because this is important for our community, and it really is a mission and a journey. Thank you all.